Do you think you're the devil himself?
No, but I do have a good mirror.
Mr. Epstein, how long have you been sexually attracted to underage minor females?
Objection, harassing, argumentative.
Are you kidding? No, I don't feel like I'm divulging any secrets here, right?
Move to strike.
Mr. Epstein, were you sexually abused as a minor?
Again?
Little St. James. This is the island that should be wiped off the face of the earth. It is precisely here that Jeffrey Epstein, the most depraved pervert the world has ever seen, committed every kind of depravity, held satanic rituals, and established a blackmail ring by hosting politicians, artists, and other celebrities. Right under the noses of the world and the FBI, they have practically established a satanic cult on this island. The whole world is wondering, who is this pervert Jeffrey Epstein? Despite numerous allegations against him, this shadowy figure, who hadn't even finished college, began working as a math teacher at Dalton School, New York's most prestigious co-ed institution. Who hired this man for such a school, even though he had no degree? That person was Donald Barr. He served as the principal of Dalton School from 1964 to 1974. He was the father of William Barr, who would later become the U.S. Attorney General and Attorney General of the United States. With this extraordinary start, Epstein had firmly established himself at the center of power during that very period. While all this was happening, he was laying the groundwork for the terrifying events to come at his mansion in Florida. He lured teenage girls into his web under the pretext of giving them massages. He sent the young girls he had ensnared to various countries to receive professional massage training. He paid each of them $200 to lure and bring in other children through these girls. In the 1990s, two sisters filed a complaint with the FBI, but no action was taken. The cases filed against him were being covered up by an invisible force. Epstein was being protected as if by a magical hand. Those who tried to investigate these incidents were silenced using methods straight out of Hollywood movie scripts. Journalists, politicians, artists. In fact, one allegation from that period involved a severed cat's head and a real bullet being found in front of the home of Graydon Carter, the editor of Vanity Fair. The purpose of all this was to intimidate anyone who tried to touch Epstein. It worked at the time because suddenly all the news and allegations had stopped. No one was mentioning Epstein's name anymore. No one could. As you might expect, Epstein wasn't acting alone while wielding all this power. There was someone just as guilty as Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. She was the daughter of British media mogul Robert Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell was Epstein's biggest accomplice. She played a major role in helping Epstein find girls. She also acted as a go-between, connecting him with the British royal family, including Prince Andrew. Maxwell was arrested in 2020 based on the allegations against her and is currently serving her sentence. A woman has emerged who played a major role in bringing all of this to light today. Virginia Giuffre, one of the biggest victims of Jeffrey Epstein, the sex trafficker who died in 2019. Giuffre, who fell into Epstein's trap as a young girl, was being trafficked by Epstein to some of the world's most powerful men.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
About a month after Giuffre announced on March 31st, 2025, that she was battling kidney failure, she took her own life by hanging herself at her family's home in Western Australia on April 25th, 2025. Of course, as you know, it remains unclear whether she did this of her own volition. After all, she had written on social media that she would never commit suicide. What happened at the strange, domed temple painted blue and white on Little St. James Island was sickening. Recently uncovered emails described torture of children and satanic rituals. According to the allegations, the CEO of a major company did things to a 16-year-old that we couldn't even begin to imagine. According to another allegation, these individuals, who had lost their humanity and conscience, believed that drinking the blood of 2-year-olds would delay aging. So, how did Jeffrey Epstein manage to get away with all of this? A name familiar to Americans, Alexander Acosta. Federal prosecutor Costa struck a secret deal with Epstein in 2008 and sentenced him to 18 months in prison. The most secret clause of this deal was that not only Epstein, but all his accomplices would also be spared prosecution. According to another claim, Epstein did not serve his full 18-month prison sentence. He was allowed to leave the prison for 12 hours a day and continued his illegal activities from his own office. As a result of all this, Alexander Costa was rewarded by being appointed Secretary of Labor during Donald Trump's first term. Interestingly enough, he had also resigned when the Epstein case came to light. Epstein's sentence ended, and he returned to his despicable ways, continuing to throw parties with the world's most powerful people. However, he was arrested again in 2019, and this time there was no escape. In a tragically absurd turn of events in his Manhattan cell, the guards fell asleep, the security cameras malfunctioned, and Epstein hanged himself with a sheet. This was tantamount to treating people like fools. 2 days before his death, he pulled off one last devilish scheme and transferred his personal fortune of $577 million to a secret fund called the 1953 Trust. His own birth year was 1953. His goal was very simple: to make it legally impossible for the women who were victims of his sex trafficking to receive compensation from that money. According to statements relayed by an unidentified employee of Epstein's on the island, there was constant construction work going on the island. Whenever Epstein was coming to the island, we were notified in advance, and all employees were given 3 days off before his arrival. When Epstein was on the island, no one else was there. Only his inner circle and personal staff remained with him. He was a very strange man. For long periods, there was no alcohol on the island, and he himself did not drink or smoke. At one point, the staff wanted to throw a New Year's party, and only then were they able to bring in beer. Epstein spent an incredible amount of money on this island. Cables were laid from the island of St. Thomas. It was an infrastructure project worth approximately $2.5 million. Since there was no electricity on the island, Epstein had the cables installed for electricity and internet connectivity. There was a small but beautifully designed library on the island that resembled Italian libraries. French and Italian craftsmen had worked on the construction of this library. Epstein was a strange man. There were 3 pools on the island. He named one of them the Flagpole Pool. Another pool was located where the master bedroom was in the main house. Around the pool were bungalows. Guests stayed here, and each one even had its own bathroom. Today, the public does not believe he committed suicide at all. There are many claims that he did not die and was abducted. As you can understand, the idea that such a man would commit suicide of his own volition doesn't sound very plausible. There are many claims and speculations circulating about all of this. However, today, every theory regarding these claims is being substantiated with documented evidence, because no one should expect people to believe that an ordinary high school teacher could rise to such a position of power, a power so great it could bring bankers, politicians, members of royal families, and artists to their knees. Generally speaking, when looking at everything that happened, Epstein was not nearly as intelligent as he was made out to be. In fact, he was not a man who understood finance, as some circles claimed. When he was accepted as a visiting researcher at Harvard University in 2005, the university's report stated, "As a result of our review, we concluded that Epstein did not possess the academic qualifications typically required of visiting faculty members, and that the research proposal he submitted in his application was inadequate." He was subsequently rejected. In 2008, the fund Epstein managed, Liquid Funding Ltd., suffered losses and collapsed due to risky and irrational investment methods. Amid all this, there was no valid reason for Epstein to work in financial markets or banks. The official ruling issued after his death concluded that it was a suicide. And what did the renowned pathologist Michael Baden, who was retained by the Epstein family and even participated in the autopsy, have to say? 3 separate fractures in the hyoid bone and the thyroid cartilages of the larynx. In my 50-year career, I have never seen 3 such fractures in a person who committed suicide by hanging. All these findings are far more consistent with strangulation and murder. And Epstein had been dismissed with an unbelievable theory. At least, that's what people were supposed to think. Or perhaps not. Who knows? When we look at the life of this despicable, depraved monster, what we see is a web built entirely on connections and coincidences. Despite the countless files and pieces of evidence published online today, no one is talking about Virginia Giuffre, one of the biggest victims of these events. People still aren't discussing the conspiracy theories that have been debunked 1,000 times. Those who brought Epstein to power, those who funded this monster, those who gave this man billions of dollars. They aren't discussing why he has never faced any legal consequences. While we, the public, are stoning a monster turned into a tabloid sensation, the owners of the laboratory that created that monster are still standing on podiums, still lecturing us on human rights.